here we go with the rain falling outside. Chapter 24, Book 5. Idaque. And so accordingly, per gentes, continuing on, protonus, immediately or forwards, venemus, we came to Leucos groves and Agros fields, pubae variorum semina latos. So these fields were happy or prosperous in the pubescence, in the maturing stage of various seeds. So looks like these fields and groves had maybe orchards and fruit was growing. Ubi, where reperta a regia, where there was a palace found. Romano more, built in the Roman custom. Edificata means it was built. It's female with regia reperta. And quoniam, since it placuit, since this was pleasing, intacta mansit, it remained intact. They didn't destroy it. 2. Erat etiam, and there was even, in Hague Eadem region, in this same region, an extentem spatium. There's a broad space, or an extensive space, and as Romans do, they put et between their adjectives. So it was a round and wide space, we'd say in English. In Latin, they have to put an et in there. So it was a broad, round space. Circum clausam, so it was surrounded and shut in by an ambitu, which is a circular going around, of loricae. Normally that's a breastplate, but here it means fortification or something. Something female plural accusative was destined for the king's voluptuous, for the king's pleasure. Okay, so this concourse fortification was containing feras, wild beasts, who were destined for the king's pleasure. There were leones, which are lions, with ubatus curvicabuses. Ubis is a mane, curvicabuses on the necks, so they're lions with manes on the necks. I don't know if it's only males, maybe there's some female lions have manes. And armus hispidus apros. One of the most common words you see for wild boars. If you know Asterix and Obelix, they have lots of wild boars. These have with hairy arms, or upper arms near the shoulders, and ursos, which are bears, as sunt persica, and as they are in Persia, ultra omnem rabium savientes. So all these animals are very savage. They savientes, beyond all sort of rabies, madness. I think rabies you get when you get bit by a dog with rabies and it foams. Rabies actually means madness. And electa, other things which are chosen, corpora bodies, imania, other chosen with huge bodies of bestiarms, of beasts. Okay, yeah, so that's that whole section. Now we've got a colon. Okay, so we'll put lorica up here as the daily dictionary word. You'll pretty much see in all the dictionaries it's breastworks or a breastplate, coat of mail. But here's one of the rare occasions in the top 20,000 words where it's a parapet or a fortification. Back to the plot. Quas omnes diffractis portarum obicis equites nostrae. So our cavalry, obicis are obstacles, and diffractis means, so our cavalry, having broken all these obstacles of the port, of the gates, so it looks like all our knights broke the obstacles of the gates. In Venatoris, lances are, if you've ever seen jousting, lance is like a big long pole, and Venatoribus is of hunting, so hunting lances you might want to say, and missiliums, so our nostres equites, our cavalry confederate, they dug holes in the multitude of them with hunting lances and missiles. Okay, so I might just cover that again. So our knights dug through all of them with a multitude of missiles, which are the things they threw. Anyway, que loco, which place? Pingui situ and cultu. Situ can sometimes mean neglect, but here it's meaning this is a site. Pinguis means it's fatty, so the site wouldn't be fatty, it's probably fat with all sort of produce, and cultu, things grown. Quibus coci. Okay, whatever that means. Okay, quam salucum nomine. So it looks like maybe the Romans call it Kochi, and it is also named Seleucia, which is Hort Longius Dispar, so it's not a far distance away. Dispar means separated. So they went to this place where with a Valatus Castris, with a camp with a rampart around it, opere tumultio, by a tumultuous sort of construction, so it was done hastily or haphazardly, and with omni exercita, with all the army, recreated. For 2 days they recreated themselves through the amounts of the water and pabula, and that's food, which is opportuna. They had a means of getting food and water, so it looks like all the army stopped there for 2 days. But Antigrassus singular with procursoribus was the princeps. So here's the emperor again, the princeps. He's gone forwards ahead of them, which is what anti means, with some procursors, which are like skirmishers. And he conlustrans, gazed his eye over it, or in a military sense he went through it, a deserted civitatem. This is like a deserted civilization or city, which by Principe Severus, so Severus must have been an emperor, he had once upon a time excised this city, so he had destroyed it. In which there was a perpetuous fons, perpetual spring, which ejected a huge stagnant pool, or a little lake, which defluens, flowed into the Tigridam, the Tigris River, and the princeps visited, he saw corpora, neuter plurals, suffixed, fixed upon, these are like some sort of yoke, pataboluses are some sort of yoke or bit of wood. Many necessitatios, many of the these are like people you're related to or your friends even, whom had prodiced, who had betrayed the city, which supra rotulimus, which we have talked about above. Pisaborum, he was one of the leaders. I might just check what the lobe has to say. Okay, no, it's the city of Pirabora. Okay, so looks like the bodies of people who had betrayed the city were the ones that were suffixed on the pataboluses. 4. Hic et. Here also Nabdabes, vivus, living, was exustus, was burned alive. Quem, who was extracted with octogeno 20. Okay, you've seen this before, so Docwe, I've taught this before, explained this before. He was extracted with 80 men from his hiding place during the storming of that city. And for this reason, quod that inter the auxilia, during the exordia, the beginning of this siege, coepti, looks like it was began, clam means secretly, policatus means he had promised, to prodere, to betray. So it looks like at the beginning of the siege he had promised that he would betray. But he had dimicavited, he had fighted acerame very ferociously, and adeptus qui, and had obtained a veniam inspiratum, an unhoped for, unforeseen pardon. Add it to this, he proruperet, he comes from rupere, meaning to broke, insolentia. He broke out in insolence, so that the point that he lacerated the with omnibus probus, all sorts of insults, he lacerated Ormazan, so he wouldn't have lacerated him, he wasn't using a knife, so he was cutting him up with insults or something. 5. Itiqui. And so accordingly, aliquantem, a little bit, progressi, plurals progressed, and percelamor, so here are we in the passive. So we progressed, and we were struck by or overturned by a tristi facto, a grim fact. It looks like, we'll just say we're struck by some sort of grim fact. Anyway, dum while, enim, for while they're being upset at this, tres cohorts, 3 cohorts of expediae means unencumbered, their feet are encumbered of the precursors, people who are out skirmishing in front. So 3 cohorts of them with a cuneo Persiae, with a Persian wedge. That'd be a formation of Persians decurterating. They having a fight. Quam subito means suddenly. The portus, the gates were patefactus, laid open. So civitatis, this would be the city again. Profundere, it means so poured forth out of this city with its gates open. Proruptors, people bursting out in a sally as they call it. And others from the contrary ripper fluminus, from the other side of the riverbed, river banks. Rippers are the banks and flumen is the river. The eumenta sequentianos, so pack animals which follow us with a few pabulators, the few people who scrounge about for fodder and food to eat. Licenter means they had a bit of license to be out, and palandibus means they were straying, were intercepted and obtruncated and cut down. So looks like the Romans are losing a few of their pabulators and pack animals. 6. Unde profectus imperator iratus. So we know adjectives take an et, but not so with supine forms of verbs. So from where the emperor set out, he was irate, and friendings. He's groaning, gnashing his teeth maybe. And now, or already, he was pro-pinquans, he was approaching the dative, the regionibus sestifontus, so he's coming close to these other regions. A celsum castellum, a high castle, offended, another one of my favourite verbs. He struck upon or found a high castle, and again it's separated, its adjective with an et, and very munified, very fortified. So it looks like Ursus, he's dared to ascendere, to go closer for explorandum, to explore this place with a gerund. Obscuria ut ipsi, as he was thinking himself, was rather obscure. We said it's translated as so he's not recognised. So he was ob equitans again, so he was riding a horse to the walls, the muros, with a porcus, with a few pork pies, with a few of his soldiers, I'm guessing. And he was avidius. He was rather too avid or too greedy, and by Paulo a little bit. He was Rupertus, and he has found himself inside the ictum talorum, inside the range of weapons. And he was non-potwit, not able to latere. I'm guessing that's to lay hidden. Nearly done. And statum. And immediately, diversum missiles, a noob, exagitus. So he was very agitated by a noob, a cloud of different types of missiles. Opetisset. It can mean go to meet or to perish. It looks like we have a tormento murale. So mural means on the wall, torment is a torment engine. So it looks like he was about to die by a torment engine. No, means except, it's like Nissi, except by a wounded armigero, by someone who geroed or bore arms, who was wounded. Qui, who was adherabating, was sticking to his laterite, to his side, and ipse himself, he was contactus, he was covered up by the density of scutorums, of shields. So a group of shields were covering him up, so only this guy sticking to his side got wounded. And he vitatoed, magno discrimine. So he's avoided a great crisis or disaster, and he discessed it and he left. And that's it.